Hello and welcome to a Celtic World podcast and YouTube channel. The channel for Celtic fans all around the world. So whether you're in El Paso or Ecclefechan, whether you're in Drumpellier or Darwin, you're all very welcome here. And I'm welcome to all the guys joining me tonight to show how worldwide Celtic's reach is. I think we've got every corner of the globe covered here. So I'll say hello first to Paul in Western Australia. Paul, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, Steve. Melting, actually. We're in a bit of a heat wave pre-Christmas. It's about 30. It's 4 or 5 today, getting up to 39, 40 on Wednesday and hanging around for most of the week. So yeah, I'm pretty good. But when it gets that hot, it's just, I know people in Scotland will be going, it's bloody freezing here. But yeah, when it gets up to high 30s and early 40s, it's not much fun, as those of us in these climes will know. But yeah, pleased to be here.
Yeah, and we're also joined by in the slightly less warm place, I would imagine, for Kaiser, who's in the shadow of Ibrox there. How are you doing, Kaiser?
Yep, trapped in the permafrost that is Ibrox. We had to amputate one of Happy Feet's feet the other day. It was so cold, it dropped to minus 14. It was mammoths playing tag in the street just to keep warm. But yeah, loving it, loving life. Maybe get a bit of freezer burn on me, Paul. Not so much sunburn over here.
Yeah, and also joining us is David in Bangkok. How are you doing, David?
Yeah, all good, Stephen. Yep. Yeah, I had a cracking weekend playing golf, winning golf as well for a change. Got to see a Celtic game on a Saturday night in Bangkok, which is only the second time it's happened pretty much this season. So instead of having to watch the games at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night, or even worse, that was a great start to the weekend.
All right, so we're all welcome here. What we're going to talk about tonight, so we're going to cover the Hibs game and look at the major incidents for that. We're going to talk a bit about Kasper Schmeichel and how important he is to the team on the back of some of Brendan Rodgers' comments after the game. Then we're going to look ahead to the vital Champions League game on Tuesday night, UK time, Wednesday morning here in Australia. And we're going to look at the opposition in that game and talk a bit about what we expect to see. So that's going to take us the full hour, I think. So let me just chuck this on. There we go. All right, so we'll dive straight in and we'll talk about the game just past. So a 3-0 win against Hibs at Celtic Park. And we'll have a look at the starting lineup first. So just put it up here. Yep, so it's Schmeichel, Johnson, Trusty, Scales and Taylor, McGregor, Engels, McCowan, Kuhn, Maeda and Ida. So obviously a few changes from the Aberdeen game, probably not unexpected given the circumstances of that game. So I'll go to you first, Kaiser. What was your impressions of the starting lineup?
I was quite happy that Brendan continues to rotate the squad and really get the best out of the squad of players. I was surprised to see Taylor in the squad to start off with. As you know, lots of debate around Taylor, his contract situation. Everyone seems to be trying to read between the lines. And yet again, no one really knows what's going on. I thought Taylor would not be starting. I thought Brendan would be taking serious looks at what exactly we're going to do in January. It looks like Taylor may be moving on. I thought Valley would be starting, or Baye, whatever way you want to say it. Me, I'm from Glasgow, so I just say it how it looks. Yeah, really impressed with the way we've been playing, and was happy to see Kuhn back in the squad as well, and glad to see Ida handed another start. Been looking forward to him progressing and really kicking on, but I feel like he's maybe still lacking a little bit of match sharpness, really needing that game time to bring his game on. But other than that, I was quite happy with the lineup.
Yeah, I think it kind of shows where the squad's at just now and the amount of changes Brendan Rodgers felt he was able to make. I think it also highlights some of the deficiencies in the squad in that, Johnson seems to be automatically put in there at right back. So he doesn't seem to have enough faith in Ralston starting these types of games. McGregor starts yet again, and both the wingers, who you would call your first choice wingers, also start. So we're happy to rotate through like the central defenders and most of the midfield and the centre forward. But David, is that sort of a sign that where Rodgers thinks we need to strengthen the squad?
Yeah, I think it was a good opportunity, and I think the team wasn't a massive surprise. We were playing at home to Hibs, one of the worst teams in the league, and I think it was an opportunity for Engels to get some confidence back. I think after the game last week, McCowan played really well against Ross County, so I think for them it was good for them to get a chance. I do think we need to start giving McGregor a rest. And I agree 100% we need to be looking at how do we support Johnston. We've got a massive run in games, and he's travelling all over the world with Canada, etc. So I think that we need to be protecting him, and I think that this would have been a good game for Ralston to show what he could do. With Carter Vickers being away, probably they didn't want to make a massive change. But no, I think it wasn't a surprising lineup for me.
Paul, any surprises to see the two wide players, both Kuhn and Maida, in the starting lineup? A number of people were maybe speculating that Yang or Forrest might come in, and I know they came off the bench later in the game, but were you surprised to see those two starting?
Oh, yes and no, Steve. To be honest, like, he's made 5 changes from the previous game. The time he made whatever it was, 8 or 9 changes, we had a wobble, and he took a slate and he came out and said he made too many changes. So 5 or 6 seems to be kind of the right number. And to the points made, the areas where there's been heavy rotation is the areas where we're strongest. You start to rotate the areas that are less strong, then potentially that's where you might come unstuck. And jumping ahead a wee bit, like the scoreline, I'd argue, flatters us. Given we controlled the majority of the match, but in terms of the big chances created, we gifted them quite a few, and they blew it, which we'll get into. But I think it's hard. In these, this is probably the on paper the easiest fixture in 4. If we look at Aberdeen, Hibs, Zagreb, and then the cup final, so it's your opportunity to rotate it around a bit. But to the point about, say, McGregor, I agree we need to start resting him. But for me, the obvious solution to rest him is Bernardo deep, and I guess I expect Bernardo probably plays on tomorrow night. So then you defeat the purpose of resting players if he's your pick for Tuesday. So he's got a bit of juggling to do, and we are in probably one of the busiest periods between now and the end of January. This is going to be as busy as it gets. So McGregor will have to potentially sit out some games, but he's then got some more juggling to do, because I don't know what anyone else thinks, but I think Paulo Bernardo is the most obvious solution to replace him in the holding role.
I never really thought of it the way Stephen suggested there, like so busy looking at the cups moving, like that game with the cups and balls, so busy looking at the cups moving, I'm not looking at the cups that are not moving. So like Schmeichel not getting slopped out with Sinisalo, Johnston always starting, Ralston never coming in there, McGregor seems to be a shoe-in all the time in central midfield. Yeah, I get what you're saying there, Stephen. It's a different way to look at the same problem. Do we really have the depth in the squad that we imagine we have? Well, we see these positions rotating, but we don't see all of them rotating. So clearly we don't have the depth we think we have in every position. I just
think if you're going to rotate the wingers, for example, you need your strongest midfield in, and swings and swings and maybe Kyogo instead of Ida, depending on who the opponent is. And equally, you could have played Ralston, but maybe then you leave CCV and Trusty together, so you're not swapping 3 out of 4. So I guess it's where he sees the priority. And I think resting Carter Vickers ahead of tomorrow night was a good shout. So you take the risk in the centre, and that Johnston's got a good enough engine, and I think there will be times that they'll be rotated out as well. But if we're only rotating 4 or 5, max 6, then you're going to be keeping 4 or 5 of your key players. And to be honest with Schmeichel, I don't think you rotate him out. And if he wasn't going to rotate him out for, the early cup rounds of the League Cup, I don't think he's going to rotate him. You might you might have argued he'd rotate him in the Scottish Cup, but then we've done Killian in the 4th round, so you probably won't. I think hopefully Schmeichel's we've got that extension. Hopefully he signs on for another season. I'm assuming he's going to try and finish after the. Assume he's going to try and finish after the World Cup. I assume Schmeichel's going to try and finish after the World Cup in 26. So one more season takes him there. And I think why would he go anywhere else when he's going so well with us? I think he hopefully takes that. We take that extension, or both parties take that 1 year extension, and then Sinisalo is rotated through a bit more regularly next year, with a view to, if he's good enough, taking the first choice jersey for the season after.
See, I get what you're saying there, Paul. Sorry, but I don't think that's the way Stephen meant it. Rather than the squad dynamics are rotating the players, I think it just kind of means like, okay, Schmeichel is the number 1 and Sinisalo is the long-term future. So what if something touch Harry Wood was to happen to Schmeichel, he was to pick up an injury? Is Sinisalo really at the level right now where he could come in and fill in that position, where he's not even getting starts for games against second bottom in the league or the cup games? So
nobody rotates a keeper like that, guys. Look at what happened at Aberdeen when Mitov's out for 6 weeks. They've got doing in, and he's got to do it. So I'm not bothered about us not rotating the keeper. I do agree players like Ali Johnson and Cal McGregor will need to be rotated, and Maeda and Kuhn will need to be. I thought it was good that Kuhn got pulled at half time. I know people were worried that there was potentially an injury there of getting him out so early, but he was clearly just resting him ahead of Tuesday.
All right, well, let's dive right into the game. The first inside the first 10 minutes, we took the lead. I think Hibs had a decent enough chance just before this. But David, do you want to talk us through this goal?
Yeah, it was a cracking goal. I wasn't sure, first of all, if it was Ida or Engels that got the last touch at it. It was an excellent pass down the wing. I think it was great movement between Kuhn and Johnston. Their interplay is really superb just now. Put it into space, and I think I was saying at the beginning that Engels was looking for something to build his confidence, and I think that was a great start for him. I do think that the 2 chances they had before it got to that were quite worrying. But definitely it was a great goal, and Engels took it well. But for me, when we talk about the Zagreb game, the importance of having a strong right side, Kuhn and Johnston, I think they could play havoc on tomorrow night.
Yeah, Paul. I don't know. I've lost count of the amount of goals we've got this season from that combination down the right hand side of Kuhn and playing Johnson in on the overlap, and he plays the ball into the box for a goal. It's been really absolutely invaluable for us this season.
Yeah, you're right. It's happened time and time again. They've got a really good understanding. I think, conversely on the left hand side, because Taylor doesn't really play on that overlap, and that because Vi is not being consistently getting a game either, there isn't that same sort of fluidness on the other side. But yeah, Kuhn and Johnson are working brilliantly together. Ali Johnson put in great balls time and time again, and quite a few times, especially in the second half, they just flashed across goal and the movement wasn't really there from either Ida or whoever was playing wing on the far side, be it Maeda or Yang. They just weren't quite as sharp at that back post as you would like. But yeah, long may it continue. Great link-up play. Hard work by, Alistair Johnson put a right shift in yesterday. And yeah, this was a great ball, and Ida's hungry for it as well. But it's a lovely finish by Engels, and he's taken I think some pretty unfair criticism, mainly based on his fee rather than his actual contribution. And it was great to see him get in And it's like, it looks like a simple finish, but there's a deft little touch just to flick it into the corner. And I thought he had a decent game. He didn't quite set the header on fire, but he had a few good shots. His link-up play was pretty good. He's got a great engine. There's an absolute quality player there. He just needs to sort of get up to speed and get his confidence up and get used to playing twice a week. And Rodgers is, I think I saw a lot of people saying it was unfair that he was back in the side. It should have been somebody else, but I think he'll be on the bench on Tuesday, and so this is the perfect time to get him in and get him a decent amount of minutes.
Yeah, okay. I'll move on to the next incident of note I've got, and this was Luke McCowan just clipped the top of the bar after some really good work from Maeda Kaiser. Do you remember this incident?
No, very sorry. I don't remember this effort. I was just going to pick up on the first point and the first Maheshi's point there in the chat as well. Coming into this game, I did think Celtic were just going to completely steamroll Hibs. They were far better side. They were a lot more physical. They were robust. They had pace. I was impressed with some of Hibs' play, especially their breakaway play. They caught us on the break several times. And just before the first goal, they had the main breakaway chance that Kasper stopped with his feet. So I think they played a lot better than would suggest, the scoreline would suggest, and also the league position. I think they're a far better side than where they are dwindling in the league right now. But no, I don't remember this effort. I'm very sorry.
You're all right. Don't worry about it. David,
pass the ball.
Good work from McCowan getting out of the box to get on the end of that.
Yeah, I think it would have probably been ruled offside. I think initially, when Maeda, you can't tell from there because like Maeda's done so much work after it. But I think the initial ball through to Maeda, I think he would have probably been called back for offside. But it was again great work by him down the left side. Again, doing that, showing his pace, stopping quickly, reversing, and again playing a good pass to McCowan, who was unlucky to clip the top of the bar.
All right, Paul, and what about Kaiser's point there about Hibs and what the point Mahesh raised about Hibs being actually on a decent run of form? They did have a decent 3-each draw with Aberdeen, and they also had a good 3-0 win against Motherwell. So they did come into this game on a decent run of results. Do you think that sort of puts a bit of context into some of the chances that we handed them?
Yes and no. I think a lot of the chances we gave up, I think, are pretty poor. We caught square multiple times, and I think that's I think it's really on the basis that Scales and Trusty haven't played that much together. Now they played brilliantly when they were in Bergamo, and we drew with Atalanta. But everything in that game was in front of them. They were asked to defend their box, and they did so brilliantly. They're both good in the air. They're decent stoppers, and they didn't really have to hold a line much because we were pinned back a lot of the game. In this game, they're obviously playing a really high line, as you would expect at Celtic Park, and I don't think they were really in tune on it. The first one, he runs from inside his own half, and Scales is well past him. And Trusty's pretty much in line with him, but he's not close enough, and he just runs away. And he should score. Kurachevich should score. It's a great save by Schmeichel, but he definitely should score. The stats basically show, and I know not everybody loves the stats, but the stats show that I think our XG was 3.8-ish, and theirs was 2.8-ish. And in what they call big chances, they had 5. And they missed all 5, obviously, because there's no goals, which is more big chances than us. I think we had 3 or 4. I think maybe we had 4 big chances. So if they take their chance, like, massive cliche, but they take their chances, this game looks completely different. It's the kind of game that in other seasons we might have dropped points. Now, potentially would have lifted it again. But the game, in terms of the result, I think 3-0 flattered us. The second half, we were much, much better, and we dominated possession and eventually put them away. But even at 2-0, there was that Luke McCowan left that pass short, and they were nearly in. And then there was also the sort of break down the left. There was a double save by Schmeichel then as well. So we were a bit slack, and we were a bit profligate in front of goal as well. But there was a few chances we missed as well. Ida missed a brilliant chance right before half time. He's got to score that, and Scale should probably do better with the one that the keeper's made some good saves. But for me, it was really about it was a story of two keepers. Their keeper had numerous good saves and kept the score down, and obviously we know that Schmeichel had a great game as well.
Delighted to see the youngsters behind the goals there as well.
Kano Foundation.
Yeah, that's the Kano Foundation sits.
Delighted to see that.
They do some great work. Right, we'll keep scrolling through these incidents then. The next one I had there was a long-range effort from Engels, which the keeper did well to turn round the post. We won't talk too much about that one. Into the second half, and Engels again, I think, has a really good chance right on the edge of the box, but sort of trickles it into the keeper's arms. So, I mean, in effect, Engels could have had a hat-trick, Kaiser. What was your overall take on his performance?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Engels. I understand that coming from the team that he came from, the league he was playing in, playing one game a week, to the volume of games we have here, he was going to suffer. I just kind of feel he's like a sports car. He's like a Mustang, but we're bringing him and we're ploughing fields with him in Scotland. We've got him like a tractor. We're hooking a plough to the back of him, and then people are asking questions. Why is he not getting grip in the dirt? Silly things like that. Like, why is he no better? Why is he not performing? £11 million, and more than people love to see you rise, they love to see you fall. They love tearing you down. I think Engels just needs a bit of time. Absolute cavalier of a player. He just needs a bit of time to develop. I remember when Bernardo was coming on and putting in performances for us in the Champions League, but Brendan wasn't playing them in the league. Well, this is like a year on Bernardo right now. Look at the way he's firing. Look at the way he's been managed. Look at the way he's developing. Think about that from Arne Engels' starting point. Moving forward, it's just the sky's the limit for him. I think people just need to cut him a break. I thought this game he fully demonstrated his prowess from the right-hand side of midfield. As you say, he could have had a hat-trick. He's always defensively very solid as well. I think when we brought him in, he was a defensive midfielder. He played more of a defensive role, and we're asking him to move forward. So really, he's, as well as a new club, a new country, really a new position under a new manager at 21 years old, maybe we cut the guy a little bit of slack. Just a wee bit of slack.
Yeah, and Rodgers has been very vocal in defence of Engels over the last couple of weeks, calling out the fact that this time last year, it was probably Bernardo that was getting the sort of the snide remarks, and then Nicholas Kuhn also suffered last year from the same thing. And he was pointing out the fact that Engels is just in exactly the same position, and he's quite happy with where he's at just now. David, would you share those sentiments? Are you quite happy with where Engels is at just now?
Oh, 100%. I mean, as Kaiser put it perfectly. I mean, the guy's, he's a young guy coming to a new country, working, in a different position to what he was playing. I mean, I didn't realise that he was so much of a defensive midfielder when he was in his previous club, but I think it shows the talent he's got. I mean, he's first choice for Belgium. He's got all the attributes. He's strong. He's fast. I think he's got a bit of a dig about him. So I think what Paul was mentioning earlier on, I can actually see him replacing McGregor for some of the games. And I think it would be good to see McGregor, to see Hatate, Engels and Bernardo, to see how the three of them work together. But yeah, I mean, I think this was, the two shots that you showed, one from outside the box that you would have expected the keeper to make. And then this one, the defenders come on to him quite fast. So he's had to kind of, outside of the foot, and he didn't get much power into it. But yeah, it was a solid performance. And I think that Rodgers is managing him, extremely well.
All right, skipping on to the next one. We've got the ball in the net again. Another goal from a corner, this time from Luke McCowan on the right. He swung in a cracking in-swinger. Ida gets a head on at the near post and it goes in off Newell, I think the Hibs defender. Paul, we really have started picking up goals from set pieces this season. I think that's a major change from last season, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I noticed in the post-match interview, Brendanrodgers was quick to praise the coach and staff. So Gavin Strachan and Greg Wallace. I'm assuming it's not the MasterChef one. That would be concerning. But especially what kind of stuff he's been up to lately. especially with his allegations. But joking aside, the set pieces has long been something we've bemoaned in terms of both boxes. We've given away cheap goals at our end, and we've not really converted anything, or very, very few chances. So yeah, I think it's going really well. It's a great delivery. I love an in-swinging corner. It sort of frustrates me when we do it short or out-swinging. If you've got players to attack the ball, then chuck it in on top of the keeper and let's see how they deal with it. Worst case scenario, it sort of goes for another corner or it potentially deflects and something like this can happen. It's a great delivery by McCowan and Ida gets across his man really well. He's well beyond the front post. He does really well to direct it towards goal. And then Newell's just sort of caught a bit flat-footed and under it, sort of 2-3 yards out and only manages to sort of hit it behind his keeper. So really good to see more goals from set pieces. And yeah, I think the quality of delivery we've got now is great. Engels hits a good one, McCowan does, Bernardo does as well. I think all three are actually producing better quality corners than even Matt O'Reilly did, which is, sounds ridiculous and also really high praise because O'Reilly used to hit a decent set piece, but I felt like his were a wee bit more floated, whereas as these guys are getting some really good whip on it and that pace just shows with the pace that comes in on it, Ida doesn't have to do too much other than sort of direct it towards goal and then mayhem occurs from there.
Mm-hmm. I think
we're not quite
at delivery. Sorry,
I was going to say we're not quite at Arsenal standards yet for set pieces. They're absolutely on fire, but it just shows you like a quality team like Arsenal under Arteta, who just want to play really good football, passing the same as we do. They've obviously put a massive amount of focus into that, and they're scoring set pieces every single week. So it's a part of the game I'm glad we're focusing on, especially when we go into tough and tight games in Europe. It's a kind of thing that can kind of nick you a win or get you points or pull you back into a game. So yeah, great to see.
Yeah, I think we chatted about this last week, David, on the Monday podcast, and I can remember at points last season thinking, "Oh God, when we got a corner, this is pointless." We were just throwing the ball into the box and it was getting cleared by the first man 9 times out of 10. But this is definitely another feather in our bow this year, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a tactic that. Scales has normally been the one that's been attacking the front post. But then having that delivery, we mentioned last week that because the delivery there's so much power in it, as Paul mentioned, we're not just floating the ball in, where the attacker has to get to generate all the power himself, so you're really just kind of knocking that on. And, and it does create havoc. It's a really good tactic. And, later on in the game, Trusty was quite unlucky, with the same thing. So, yeah, it's as you mentioned, a team like Arsenal are doing this week in, week out. We should be doing this as well. Those little short corners just frustrate everybody.
I remember when last season was it when we were discussing one game, we had like 14 corners in the game and did not convert one single corner, not one chance. So big credit to Liam Scales and Ida, because they are attacking the ball, they are moving in the box, they are a real offensive threat, especially Liam Scales. He seems to just take that big bombasted head and just think to yourself, I'm already ugly, just stick my face in there. All pride to him. Keep it up, Liam. It's fantastic. I love to see it.
Back on Greg Wallace again.
Exercises for Hanson.
All right, moving swiftly on. Next incident of note. So this is when, I think we spoke about this already. I think Luke McCowan from what I can see, this is probably the first foot he's put wrong in his time with the Celtic, the first team. He's been shot with a pass back. The Hibs players got in, and Schmeichel's pulled off a good save, but pretty slack from McCowan, Paul.
Yeah, I think he just either he must not see him, or he's just left it a little bit short, because it's not far. It's very nearly at Schmeichel's feet. Like, that looks like he's left it really, really short. It's not quite as bad as that still looks, but yeah, he definitely doesn't get the right weight on it. And I wonder if he's maybe just semi-blind past that and hasn't quite realised the pressure on it. But Schmeichel gets him out of jail, and I think McCown was pretty much the first one there to congratulate / thank him, because it wouldn't have been a great one if that had gone in.
I think when McCowan picks the ball up there at the edge of the area, and he just, as you say, he doesn't even glance. I think the offensive player there just continues to trot on. Like, he's not even chasing the ball. He's not expecting that ball to go there at the break. He was like completing a run, and he was just, his momentum was carrying him through. And when McCowan's passed the ball, neither McCowan nor the striker was alive to the chance. The striker did get on the ball really fast and have a good effort, but we should really have been punished for that. That should have been another goal there. So that's 2 breakaways where Schmeichel's kept us in the game, and this save as well for this slack back pass. Really the first foot McCowan's put wrong, and I seen Callum McGregor absolutely ream him for it, you know. But he's behind him. He should be screaming at him as well and letting him know. The only one really alive to the situation was Schmeichel, right out and shut down that space and made a terrific save. Really testament to his ability. I think some of these saves Joe Hart just does not make, not because he's not a good keeper, or he wasn't excellent for us, just because he was a different type of keeper. He wasn't that on-rushing, spread your body, right down at your feet, willing to get hurt kind of keeper. Kasper Schmeichel clearly is an excellent shot stopper.
All right, we'll talk a bit more about Schmeichel shortly. We'll just keep scrolling through. This is another chance for Hibs with the ball came right over from the left-hand side and ended up all the way at the Hibs player. And he's took a good enough touch, but then blazed it over the bar. David, that was another one we were lucky to get away with?
Well, I think this is an excellent still, because it shows how far Taylor is away from the ball. You know, what was his job? There was only one defender on that side of the pitch. And for me, a lot of stuff was made about how Scales and Trusty didn't have a great game. But for me, the whole problem was people were trying to accommodate for Taylor perpetually being out of position. I mean, there was one time in the first half, Taylor's down on the right wing beside Kuhn. And I know that he's inverted, but I mean, that's taken it to a bit of an extreme. And I think that there were some, when I was looking at highlights, you know, today, you could see the space between Scales and Trusty was huge. But it was, for me, it was because Scales was so much trying to cover for Taylor. And when the ball gets hit over Scales' head, it's because Taylor wasn't even in that side of the pitch. You can tell I'm not his biggest fan, but he did play well when he came on against Aberdeen. But for this one, he's miles away from the ball. And I think if the attacker makes a slightly better first touch, I mean, I think Taylor's got a slight block on it, maybe, but it's not good. It's not good enough. And I think when it comes to tomorrow night, we need to be looking at whether we're going for Valle or not. But I don't think we need an inverted fullback when we're at home to Hibs. We just need a proper left back, and that would have solved a lot of the problems that we had in the centre of defence yesterday.
Rodgers obviously disagrees, though, because I don't think he's out of position when he's inverting, and that's exactly where Rodgers wants him to be. He doesn't get to run riot in midfield if the manager's not on board with that. And I thought, defensively, okay, he's a little bit out of position there. He gets pressure on. And yeah, I agree with you. That's part of the reason why we're stretched across the back line. But Taylor being in midfield was one of the reasons we dominated possession, because he added the extra man in midfield next to McGregor, and we overloaded them in midfield when they pretty much were playing basically 5-5. They didn't, after Kurarevich went off, Johan was barely playing up front. So they were basically trying to overload the midfield. And I think that's why Taylor was specifically asked to be as inverted as he was all the game, because that evened us up and allowed us to dominate position and hold the midfield. So the manager's obviously traded off winning the midfield battle versus giving up some coverage on the left-hand side. And for the most part, after those first couple of ones at the beginning of the first half, overall we weren't great first half, but second half, I think we dominated the game, we dominated possession, and if we weren't as slack in front of goal, we would have won the game comfortably. Or even more comfortably. We
definitely dominated the game. There was no question in the second half. But I just think that that we don't need. For me, we don't need an extra midfielder at home to Hibs. Taylor showed his the value that he brought in when he came on the second half against Aberdeen. He did that in the European games as well, where we did need that extra midfielder. But for me, these types of games at home to Ross County, at home to Hibs, let's just get your left back playing left back, and that's just for me.
I would just like to say, see, just looking at this still here, right? Just looking at this still in isolation, Trusty is clearly pushed over to try and prevent that ball coming across. So Alistair Johnston must have been advanced there on the right-hand side. So Trusty's had to push over. Scales is pushed over to cover Trusty. He's clearly marking the man. Taylor's distancing between Trusty, Scales and Taylor is perfect. It's perfect. The guy who can see what's going on at the back post there is Nicholas Kuhn. If he's not screaming at Taylor to drop back because the player's dropped off him, he should be picking him up. That's actually Hibs right back who's up there. Who's actually a manimal. I seen him on the screen and I was like, this guy's a man mountain. What is he doing playing right back? He's an absolute machine. But a typical right back, he brings the ball down and blazes a chance over the bar. I wasn't so angry at Taylor in this situation here. If you look at the space he's filling and where he is, he's actually come in there to prevent the runner breaking through the middle. He's got that covered. Actually, he's moved over as a unit, a defensive unit. So him getting the ball at the back post there, I'm not really 100% just diving on Taylor for that, because Kuhn should have been, he's a guy who can see, he's a guy behind, he should have been picking that up as well. We always talk about the work rate of our midfielders.
It's Yang, guys.
Yang. I'm very sorry, then it's Yang. Yang's at fault. I feel a lot better about blaming Yang than I do Kuhn. It's just that.
Because Kuhn went off at half time, didn't he?
Yes, 100%. Well said. Yeah, I was just I know everybody's on the Flog Taylor bandwagon, and it's very easy just to pick him out and go, Greg Taylor. But like, if we're going to pick him out and understand being picked out because he's missing in action when he's inverting, we've got a left winger that plays right. We've got a left back that plays right wing. Sorry, he doesn't just half invert; he inverts the full pitch. He doesn't come to the halfway and stick to the left hand side. He goes right across the pitch. Kaiser's always talking pish, Monty.
Well,
Hang about with you too much, you sausage.
Part of the issue here as well is one of the reasons why it's okay that Taylor inverts and is out of the traditional left back position is because he's usually got Maeda in front of him, and the amount of work rate Maeda does can cover for that as well. And obviously by this point Maeda's off the pitch and you've got Yang. Vi would play the traditional left back position much better, but I think he's rested because I expect him to start against Zagreb. So again, it's back to the squad rotation. You can't necessarily have both. And one of the reasons why, as I said earlier, why the boss will want Taylor in a home game, and you're saying you don't need an extra midfielder. Well, they flood the middle of the pitch, and if you've not got an extra midfielder in there, then potentially you give up possession. So I'm quite happy with Taylor playing in these kind of games. Yeah, in an ideal world, you've got quality left backs that want to hold the left back position, and they can overlap just the same as Alistair Johnston's doing. But we don't have left back at that level that can operate, nor do we have cover. So as it stands, it's horses for courses.
Paul, I would also be delighted with playing with a back three and just playing with a midfielder, because we do have quality to the tune of millions in midfield, but we don't have quality to the tune of millions at left back. So I would much rather just drop Taylor out of the squad and play with a back three and put CCV central, put Scales on the right-hand side and put Trusty on the left-hand side of a back three, and just play play that way. I know Scales is out of position then, but trust his recovery pace and CCV in the middle. I would go for that and just play the extra midfielder rather than have a defender come into midfield and try and affect the game. Greg Taylor does it very well. It's one of the best things about his game. I can say that.
I think the only problem with that is that you then ask too much of your wingers because they're working as hard backwards as they are forwards. And as much as you want your wingers to track back, I don't think you want them actually being able to play full back as well.
All right, well, moving on. But before we do that, I'll probably point out the Greg Taylor inverting into midfield is the reason why we won at Aberdeen. So I think that's what Rodgers sees as well. So I think he does do a good job in there. But we'll move on to the next incident. And this was, probably won't spend too much time talking about this. This is the one we spoke about earlier. Another great delivery. And Trusty gets his head on it. And I think it comes off the bar, is it? Or did the keeper save this one, Paul?
I can't remember exactly. I think the keeper maybe makes a save here, or it just flicks off the side of the post. But it was pretty close.
Yeah, another great delivery.
The keeper touches it over the bar. One for Sky Sports. Yeah. Full acrobatic save.
Yeah. This one here, I've put a still in here just in the run up to this goal. Excellent work from James Forrest. And he's played a ball into Kyogo. And sometimes you see a goal that just reminds you why you love football, and this is one of these ones for me. David, talk me through Kyogo's touch and finish.
It was just sublime. I think we talk about world class, and you remember Larsson's chip, and those kind of goals. For me, this was right up there. The ball's coming to him at pace. He switched his feet to get the ball onto his right hand side. And then, the goalkeeper's running out to him, and he's taking the time and the control to be able to take an extra step. And then the keeper sold himself, and then he just dinks it over him. I mean, all of that was done in a millisecond. It wasn't something that was, he had plenty of time to control it. This was done in an instant. It was a phenomenal goal. I agree, Forrest played an important part. But even in the run-up to this, you saw that Kyogo was running back. I think the chasing that led up to this goal was very impressive. There was about 3 or 4 of our players were all over the Hibs defence. But when the ball comes to Kyogo, it's just sublime. And I think that when Ida was interviewed after the game, he was just in awe of the guy. It was a superb goal.
Yeah, Paul, anything to add? Any more effusive praise of Kyogo?
It's hard to be even more effusive, but it was just absolute class. I love the little, almost like hopped over it, little hop, lifted his left leg, let it flick onto the right, and then the finish is great. I think it's worth mentioning the build-up. Obviously, David's mentioned that they were hounding him. It's actually Jamesy Forrest that gets the nick on it on the blind side, so he gets the toe in, nicks it back to Hatate. Hatate, as always, is looking. He's on the move and he's looking for the pass, and Forrest, to his credit, is looking for it back. Hatate weighs it in perfectly to him, and then James just lays an inch perfect weighted pass into Kyogo, and the wee man does the rest. It's absolutely class, and a real boost for him in what we're coming into a massive week. I think it just shows his class. He goes through spells, weeks, months, minutes, games where you think, oh, he's off it, or he's not in the game. He doesn't need to be in the game. He's got that classic striker's ability to get on and produce a finish, and suddenly the game looks completely different. And he's done it for us time and time again. So yeah, it has taken him a bit to get used to Brendan Rodgers' system compared to what he was asked to do under Ange. But I think I don't see any issues with that now. It's just getting him the service, and the wee man will stick it away. But yeah, absolutely class. One of the goals of the season for me so far.
Yeah, I'd like to praise James Forrest's work in winning the ball back, Hatate's work in giving it straight back to James Forrest. His pass to Kyogo, what a delightful touch, as you said there, Paul. Lets the ball run under his legs and controls it with his right. He actually lays it in. The first touch is so good, he lays it forward. And when he steps to the left. The goalkeeper thinks he's going to shoot with his left and dives. And that's why Kyogo has a presence of mind to dink that ball over. not only Kyogo, but Brendan Rodgers for rotating the squad and Adam Ida for his performances, which is clearly bringing us that extra little percentage out of Kyogo that we were missing, because for Adam Ida being in great positions, making excellent chances, nodding the ball on that we've seen for the corner. He isn't really scoring, but he's engaged in lots of excellent work and getting lots of chances. Kyogo really being clinical there. Maybe just staking his claim on that starting spot and letting Ida know this is what you need to do to start in the Champions League.
Well, you say that, Kaiser, but that was Kyogo's 8th goal of the season, and he tied with Ida, who's already got 8 goals this season. So I know it seems like he hasn't scored that many, but he's already up at 8. But I think you're right. The rotation means that Kyogo has had rest. He's not asked to be doing quite as much work as he has done certainly last season, and even under Ange, we were heavily reliant upon him. So yeah, I think Ida certainly taken a bit of the burden off, and I think there's room for even.
Sorry, Paul. I'm not talking about the overall clinicality of both strikers. You know what I mean? Like Ida, yeah, he's on 8 goals. So is Kyogo. I think if you look at the volume of chances Adam Ida had in the past couple of games, he should be on 16 goals. Just in that. And if that was Kyogo, we would be pounding him and going, it's 3 and 4 chances before he scores one. And we have done in the past, so it's only fair to be consistent with both strikers. I think Kyogo's found that clinical side of his game, and that's what I was looking for from him anyway.
Absolutely. I think Ida's return's pretty good for the minutes on the pitch. I don't have those stats to hand, but I would imagine he's got more goals per minutes on the pitch than Kyogo has. But I just think the point is that the fact that they're sharing the burden means they're going to be better off throughout the season, especially when we're coming into these really busy periods.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've got the top 4 scorers in the league. You know, so like we've got 5 out of the top 10 scorers in the league. So, you know, we're not just relying on Kyogo, we're not just relying on Ida. Obviously, Kuhn has been magnificent, but it's that fact that we're not just having to have, you know, if Kyogo has a bad day, then we don't score a goal. You know, and even if Ida did miss a few chances yesterday and, you know, last week as well. You know, it's all about kind of learning for him, and I think there's definitely a player in Ida, but I think he would have struggled to achieve the same control in that sort of space. But you know, I think it's something he's working on.
All right, we'll draw a line under the game as always. We've spent too long talking about it. I was going to have a quick chat about Kasper Schmeichel. We'll probably park that one for now. I think it's a no-brainer that he's going to be here next season. I think that's a deal that will get done. So we'll just park that one for now and move on to talking about the game on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, where we're playing Dinamo Zagreb over there. So just a quick word about Dinamo Zagreb. So they play in a stadium called Stadion Maksimir, a stadium that was damaged by an earthquake in 2020. And I think it continues to have capacity restrictions as a result of that earthquake. They're a club with a long history, which is basically based on or revolves a lot around Croatian nationalism. So there is a theory that goes around that the war between Croatia and Serbia actually started with a fight, a game between Dinamo Zagreb and Belgrade, Partizan Belgrade, or the other Belgrade team. So they reckon, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's one of these internet theories. So they have got an ultras group who are known as the Bad Blue Boys, which sounds very, very ominous. And not very welcoming at all. And I think they sort of fit the bill of your normal Eastern European ultras. I mean, they look more like UFC fighters than football fans. So I think I'll go to you, Kaiser. It's a difficult trip for the fans, at least. I think the Dortmund fans who went over there were subjected to strip searches in a tent outside the ground. So probably not one of the more attractive European trips this year.
Yeah, I think when Scotland were over there was a lot of camaraderie, and as you says, most of these guys look like UFC fighters, fully tattooed, quite built, and all us Scottish guys are quite pudgy. We're not built for speed or UFC, but yeah, there seems to be quite a bit of camaraderie between Celtic fans and the fans over there, and Scotland fans in general over there. I hope it'll be a peaceful game. We always seem to go places and just have fun. As long as the fans stick to, we're just there for a good time, a party and a game of football. I'm sure we won't cause any wars. There won't be any international conflicts igniting over Paul pitch invading and sticking heat on somebody. But it could happen. Paul might even be there. I doubt it, but it's a long trip.
Yeah, so they're on, as we mentioned earlier, probably a reasonably poor run of form. I think they haven't won in the last few games anyway. They lost. They had a draw. The last couple of league games have been draws. They lost in the big derby against Hajduk Split, and they got beat off Dortmund at home in the Champions League. Paul, have you seen much of this team in their previous Champions League appearances?
I haven't, Steve. I'll be honest. Seen the results. They're doing okay. I think they're only a point behind us, maybe. But yeah, this run of form doesn't look great. I think that game from the other night, it was either a loss or a draw as well. It's 5 games without a win in all competitions. But I think, and they've got a bunch of injuries as well, apparently. But I'm sure that might lead to some fans taking a bit of a complacent attitude, but it won't be an easy game going there. You go to these kind of places on away days, and it'll be a tough night. It doesn't really matter if it's a first team or not. You know that the Eastern Europeans are, or the Baltic nations as well, they're all technically gifted. They'll move the ball around well. They'll have people that can shoot, probably off both feet and hit a decent set play. So I'm sure the management team and the players won't be taking them for granted. It's a massive opportunity, but yeah, regardless of the squad that they've got available and the players that they send out, I think it'll be a reasonably tough night. But we should hopefully have a wee bit of confidence from the last couple of games and our previous away fixture at Atalanta.
Yeah, I've just pulled up a comment there from Scott McCrory saying that John Paul Taylor, the Celtic supporters liaison officer, is sending messages this morning that some fans had been badly beaten last night in Zagreb. So although I was being a little bit tongue-in-cheek about UFC fighters, I think it's important to note that it is a dangerous place to go. And I hope all the fans there are safe. We used to come across Croatian fans quite a lot when we were travelling in Europe back in the 1990s, and they always seem to be very friendly with Celtic fans. I think a lot of that was to do with the sort of Catholic connection. But they are also, it should be pointed out, they are far right in their political ideology. So that would create a conflict with Celtic fans, especially if there's anyone there with any kind of Palestine flags or anything. But David, let's hope that everyone's safe and sound going over there tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's, we well know how good the Celtic fans are. People tell stories about the Ajax game in Amsterdam where those fans were absolute thugs and the local police were thugs as well. So, I don't think we've ever been in a situation where the Celtic fans go over there to start something. We're usually just starting a sing-song or a bit of a piss-up. Enjoying the game in Europe, but yeah, we just hopefully everyone comes back safe enough. There was a good article on Kerrydale Street this morning from one of the guys who's been kind of doing a bit of research into this, and I think Paul already mentioned there's been quite a few injuries, and I think they haven't won domestically for about 5 games. But the game they played on Friday that they drew, I think they had 21 players eligible. 2 of them get injured, and 4 of the other ones are not in the European squad. So one of the players that's injured is their their only left back, who I think he even normally plays, or quite often plays right back. The replacement left back is not eligible for the European League. So I think this is it's a great opportunity to see Kuhn and Alistair Johnston in action against hopefully a makeshift left-sided defence.
Yeah, I've just pulled up their Champions League record so far this season. So match day 1, they got absolutely hoffed from Bayern 9-2. I don't know if that's a record, but it must be pretty close to a record defeat. They then had a reasonable 2-2 draw at home to Monaco. They've then gone and beat Salzburg 2-0 away from home, which was a really good result, although Salzburg were down to 10 men for a lot of that game. They then played against Slovan Bratislava away, and they beat them 4-1. But we all know how sort of poor Slovan Bratislava are from what we've seen of them. And then they had the 3-0 defeat from Dortmund. And I did watch a good chunk of that game. And I think that was 3-0 going on 6 or 7, because Dortmund were scoring at will almost at that point. So I think,
Steve, sorry to interrupt, Steve. I watched a bit of the highlights. Did Zagreb not pass up some good chances early on before they sort of got the game and got taken away from them? I thought they had. Yeah, I thought it was reasonably equal for a bit.
I think it was. Yeah, I think I think it was not too big a margin up to half time, but the second half Dortmund ran away with it, and it was a pretty easy win. So we'll just talk for a minute about our team and our lineup then. So, David, what are you expecting to see from our lineup that's going to be changed from the starting lineup on the weekend?
I'm expecting he's going to start Taylor. I'm expecting that Bernardo will come in midfield. So it has to be Bernardo, McGregor and Hatate. I wouldn't be too surprised if Bernardo is unlucky again and he gives Engels another chance. But I think for me, this is a game away from home against a decent team. And I would really want us to have a strong back four. I think Valle is a better defender. And if we need to later on, as Paul and Kaiser mentioned about sort of strengthening the midfield, then maybe Taylor could be an option later on. But I would like to see Valle start. I think Bernardo should start, but I wouldn't be surprised if he starts Engels instead. And Kyogo must start. Kyogo is an absolute must.
Paul, what about the two centre halves? What do you reckon? Think he'll go for Trusty and CCV?
Absolutely. Yeah, CCV got the day off just to give him a rest. He's played a lot of football, and we know that he's had a few injuries. I don't think it's the same injury. I'm pretty sure he's had multiple injuries, so he's sort of managing him. Trusty's the first choice partner these days. Scales has been rotated to give people a break. So yeah, I expect Trusty with that recovery pace, and I feel like his distribution's a little bit better than Scales. His touch is a little bit better than Scales, and he's faster. And I feel like him and CCV have really started to put a good partnership together, even though it's only a few games. So I think they'll start. I actually think Valle will start. For the reasons David had mentioned. I think he is a better defender. You saw the change in the Bruges game. It was night and day when he came on. Every pass was forward. He didn't need 2 or 3 touches. He was just one touching away. I think the Bruges game will put him in the box seat to start, and I certainly hope he does. Beyond that, yeah, there's a decision to be made between Engels and Bernardo. The rest of the team picks itself for me. So yeah, we'll wait and see. But I certainly, based on who's been rested, you'd think Bernardo's had the rest, so he probably starts. Vai's had the rest, he probably starts. CCV's had the rest, he starts.
Yeah, so
Hitate's got to start for me. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't.
Yeah, so given that, I think we can all agree that Maeda and Kuhn are going to be your 2 wide players. Kaiser, who's your midfield 3 then? Who are you going for?
Yeah, I think Definitely, I would be going for McGregor, Bernardo and Engels. Bernardo, for me, he's fighting on the left-hand side of midfield. I don't know why a player who's playing on the left-hand side of midfield constantly, because he's performing, gets shooed in on the right-hand side of midfield. Engels is on the right-hand side. Bernardo is on the left-hand side. So Bernardo competes with Hatate. So when Bernardo's performing, he is replacing Hatate. In my book, McCowan is competing directly with Engels. When McCowan is performing, he will be replacing Engels. For me, Engels is a definite starting midfield. You've got that kind of quality in the squad. You've invested that kind of money. Definitely needs to start. Hatate can always come on the other side for Bernardo, who I think is really performing right now. Bernardo, his work rate is excellent. He gives you a bit more stability. He retains the ball a bit better. Hatate is a bit better going forward. He does carve out those forward opportunities. He's got that creative brain. So Hatate can always come on and change a game for you if you're looking for that. Me, I would start with the stability. I would have Bernardo in midfield as well. McGregor, Bernardo and Engels. Maeda, Kyogo and Kun. It basically picks itself. As Paul said as well, I'm a massive Liam Scales fan. I actually think Liam Scales pushing forward and passing the ball forward has been slightly better than Trusty in recent games, but they have been recent games in the Scottish Premiership and not at European level. And I do think Trusty's recovery pace and how fast he can track back, it's just that's just pushing him over and beyond Liam Scales. He does hold and retain the ball very well as well. I would like him to play the ball out more. And same as David was saying there as well, I would love to see Valley getting a start over Taylor. I think Taylor coming into midfield in Europe does really affect these squads we play as well. So I don't know how Brendan is going to call it, but that's what it's all about. That's why we're not getting the big bucks. That's why we're on YouTube guessing, and Brendan's got a Gucci belt.
You're on mute, mate.
I said, are you not getting any big bucks, Kaiser? Is Gavin not paying you?
Oh, he sends me it in a cashier check, but because it's Malaysian money, bro, it only works out to like 35p Scottish money. I've actually started sending them ginger bottles back. 30 pence glass checks. He's the richest man over there. That's why he's away on holiday with his big brother for that bake-off. He phoned him and says, I'm stressed, Gav. The two of us need to go away. They're having a lad.
Yeah, I get all the arguments there about I take your point about Scales, but I just don't think I agree with Paul. I think he goes with Trusty and CCV. I think Valle will get the nod at left back for the reasons Paul mentioned. He was much better than Taylor was against Bruges. Johnson picks himself. Midfield three, I think Bernardo will come in. I think the fact that Engels started on the weekend is probably quite instructive that he won't start this game. And I do think Hatate comes back into that position. And I think you'll get Kyogo up front. I think that's a no-brainer, as David says, because his movement will keep their back line busy all night. I don't think he'll play the whole game. There'll be substitutions as usual round about the 60-minute mark. I'd love to see Luke McCowan getting a run. He hasn't had a run in the Champions League yet, I think. And I'd love to see him getting a few minutes to see what he can do at that level. But really looking forward to this game. And just before we go, I'll maybe ask you guys, what's your plans for watching the game? And what do you think the score's going to be? Paul, go you first.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I think it's a 1:45 or 2:45 kickoff. If you tell me, if you know when it is over you, we'll minus 3 hours. But
it's 4:45 here.
Yeah, so it's 1:45 here. Yeah, so
2, yeah.
I'll be watching it on my sofa. I'll be trying to get a few hours kit beforehand, set the alarm, get up about 1:30, get organised, and then watch the game and then go back to sleep before I've got to go to work. So yeah, I prefer the 8:00 kickoffs at home because then it's like 4:00 here. Just get up an hour or so earlier than usual and then straight to work. But yeah, this is a middle of the night, literally middle of the night up and down one, so not ideal. What do I think the score was? I don't know. I'm swinging around. I think a draw's a great result, but I do feel like there's a real opportunity to go and get 3 points. So head says score and draw. Heart says maybe we can nick it by an odd goal.
All right, David, What's your viewing plans for the game in Bangkok, and what do you think the final score is going to be?
Yeah, for us, the kick-off is 1:45 in the morning. I've not discussed it yet with the pub, but I think because it's not a hugely meaningful game, I don't know if the pub will stay open for it. And also, in terms of in terms of, it's not like, the
Doesn't get much bigger. Does it get much bigger? I don't know.
Not at all.
Champions League, mate.
No, but I mean, in terms of
Seal a qualification if we win. It's a massive game. Come on.
It's a big game. It's a big game. But also, I think the feedback I've got from the people coming to the pubs is that probably there's not enough fans that are likely to to justify the pub staying open till 3 in the morning. Obviously it's a big game, and I think we'll win 3-1.
All right, Kaiser, do you want to plug the drink along?
That's
tell us.
what I'm doing.
That's obviously how you're going to be watching it. So tell us about that and tell us what you think the score is going to be.
Kaiser and Dano drink along. The undefeated drink along returns. I don't know if we're going to be here on a Celtic World. Dano says he's going to set it up. I don't know if Gav's going to let him. We all know what Gav's like, So it might be on my channel. Should be on a Celtic World Tuesday night. Make sure you're there. Make sure you're checking it out. As I says, we have a couple of drinks. We watch the game. You just watch along. Basically, we talk mince. Have a bit of fun. Chat's always popping. There's always lots of people in chat. Lots of opinions. Lots of takes. Lots of fun. Some good music at half time. And as I says, we're undefeated. I'd like to mirror David's opinion on the score there. I think it's going to be 3-1 to us. I think we're going to win this game. This is the day that we win away. I would be happy with a draw as well. Any points on the board, but this is the day. Well, tomorrow, but that is the day that we win away. I'm just going to start singing now. I can already feel the hype building. Actually, just going to go back to bed and sleep until tomorrow. Bring it on.
Yeah, good stuff. For me, I think we're going to win 2-1. I've got a really good feeling about this game. I think we all concede a goal, though. It is a tough place to go. But I think we'll come away with a win. And that would be just massive for us to be more or less sealed our qualification for the playoff rounds with another 2 games to spare. So that would be fantastic. So thanks very much, guys, for joining me tonight. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, David. And thanks, Kaiser. And thanks to all the guys who joined us in the comments. I hope you all enjoy the game tomorrow night. Let's hope everybody over there stays safe and gets home safe and sound. And I think that's something we can all go along with. And all that remains for me is to say thanks very much for joining me, and we'll catch you next time. And hail, hail.
Hail, hail.
Yes.